But now, in the vein of big fights and seeing big fights, a fight that people have been skeptical if they want to see again, right? Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford. So some news just came out that Errol Spence had a rib injury, which we can't verify from Errol Spence because he hasn't said anything, you know what I'm saying? But some news came out that he had a rib injury prior to the fight. I think they said like maybe 3 weeks in advance or a month or something like that. And we've been hearing a lot.
I think they said like 5 weeks, like 4.
Okay, maybe 5 weeks. So and we've been hearing a lot of stuff. This happened and that happened and this happened, but allegedly this is from a really good source. I have no idea who that source is. Our channel isn't big enough, so go subscribe. Get somebody else to subscribe so the sources come tell us as well. You know what I'm saying? Come tell us directly. But yeah, apparently it's from a very good source. But the information is a little bit confusing to me. So I know you actually heard the story as well. What do you think about the possible rib injury?
I mean, this is the thing, right? Because I know people are just like grabbing anything. One thing I can say for a fact, right? Any normal, sensible, rational thinking human being knows something was wrong with Errol Spence going into that fight, right? Like it was just Terrence Crawford had a great performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not taking anything away from him. But the fact is something was off about Errol Spence, right? Not to say even if Errol Spence was like 100%, he would beat Terrence Crawford, but something was off about Errol Spence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone knows it, right? Even Bud Crawford fans, those who are honest. So now people's just trying to figure out what that was. Was it lingering effects of the car accident? Was it something that he sustained during training camp? Was it just, people even, the alleged glove gate situation with Terrence Crawford, right? People are just trying to grasp at anything like to kind of find a reason as to why he looked the way he looked, right? Was it him being weight drained? We don't necessarily know, which Derek James kind of refuted, where it says weight wasn't necessarily an issue. Now come the rib injury, and I guess the guy allegedly that gave, Errol Spence the rib injury, he didn't confirm, right? But I think there was a snippet on another boxing YouTube channel where he kind of, had an interview elsewhere, and he kind of said, yeah, me and Errol Spence, we go at it, it's a tough spar, ribs being broken, eye sockets getting hurt, right? And this is around the time in preparation for Errol Spence, fighting Terrence Crawford, right? Maybe a coincidence. I don't know. But if his rib was indeed broken and he couldn't spar or work out for about a good 4 weeks, which enabled him to gain a ton of weight, which also increased the cut weight process or made it more difficult, I think it would make more sense as to why he performed the way he performed. It's just a matter of we just don't know, right? I just don't know if that's truly the case, right? I would need to get more information to see if it, but I would definitely say it probably would answer a lot of questions if it was true. What about you?
I think one thing that would be strange about if he had a rib injury is I can almost vividly remember watching the fight and hearing Derek James saying, what's going on? And I feel like if he had a rib injury, Derek James would have known that and probably wouldn't ask him what's going on.
That is a very good point. I forgot about that.
Derek himself seemed kind of confused, like, what's happening, man? Because like you said, anyone who's seen Errol Spence fight, saw him that night and said, okay, this doesn't look like what we know. And I know people point to, Errol's flat-footed, Errol's slow, but one thing I think a lot of people aren't talking about is Errol has always been a durable fighter, and now that night he just didn't look durable. He's flopping all over the ring. Every punch, it was just like, what I'm saying, like put his HP near zero. You know what I'm saying? So I think the durability is one thing people don't talk about. So I don't know about the rib injury. I've even seen some video about how rib looks coming up of the skin when it's messed up. I'm not a doctor. I can't verify any of that stuff. But one thing I know you said that I think is actually very true. Like even if Errol was 100%, there's a chance that he could have still lost that fight. But do I think something was weird about that night? I absolutely do think something was weird. I wish we could just find out for sure. But unfortunately, this might be one of those things that we're just never going to find out. This rumor may never be confirmed, whatever it may be, whether the rib, the weight drain,
until they probably retire and they do a documentary.
The equilibrium, which is, if you ask me, that's kind of what I thought. You know, I'm like, damn,
Yeah, it makes more sense because
his
he was getting punched
equilibrium
in the
looks
face.
off. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe, you know, maybe when Terrence hit him, he got a concussion. You know what I'm saying? Because he seemed kind of off throughout the fight. You know what I'm saying? That could have happened. And I'm not saying it's like cheating or anything, but there were a couple punches. You know, if you go back and watch the fight, watch the replay, anybody can be honest with themselves. There are a couple punches that kind of came back here. You know what I'm saying? And then that can easily just throw off your equilibrium. So maybe Terrence concussed him, which is no fault of Terrence's, right? I mean, and I don't know that this is happening. I'm just saying maybe, because I think from, if I just had to guess, that's kind of what it looked more so like me. Something with just his equilibrium, because he just looked very off. You know what I'm saying? And Terrence is nice, but it's been way lesser opponent that Terrence hadn't done this to, or just had them, you know, all over the every punch, have you flying across the ring. You know what I'm saying? So I wish we could just get straightforward answers. I don't know about the rib thing. Like I said, it's weird, because it's like Derek probably wouldn't be asking the questions he was asking on fight night. So I don't really know, but I want to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. It's just one of those things. There's no actual evidence, right? We just don't know. And then you mentioned, of course, I don't remember even Terrence hitting him in the ribs in that fight.
Yeah, not too many crazy body shots. Nah.
Yeah, most of the punches is literally, like you said, to the head, to the equilibrium. Like it was that had his, and that probably that's more of a rational explanation as to why he was kind of off. You know, but you know, only time will tell. Maybe it may never come out. And you know, Errol Spence is one of those guys that outside looking in, he seemed to be a real guy, right? Like he's the official. Like he's not gonna make excuses. He's not gonna. He really gonna keep to himself. You know, he kind of he has a little like a mystique about him where he kind of just doesn't necessarily go out, you know, and give a ton of interviews or you know, is really speaking much. You know, so you may never know.
And speaking of interviews and speaking, Terrence Crawford actually, he said it's crazy, because you know how people saying like Errol should retire, Errol's trash, he's a bum. He's like, it's crazy. Boxing is the only sport where one loss and people just try to throw you away like nothing, this, that, and third. So actually kind of like sticking up for Errol. I think he has like a lot of respect for Errol, which I think his fans don't even really understand that part of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it seems like there's a lot of mutual respect there. But Terrence also said, and this part I disagree with. He was like, yeah, all the Errol fans now, they're jumping on the Boots Ennis train and they want Boots to fight me, like almost to get like retribution for Errol. But I think Boots Ennis, first of all, has his own fans. He comes from a big fight town, first of all. So I think he has his own fans. But I think it's the performances he put on, especially his last one. And I think it's the similarities that people see in the fighting styles when it comes to like the switch hitting, powerful punchers, you know, good counters. So I think it's more so that than Errol Spence fans just saying we need someone to get our get back for Errol. You know what I'm saying? I think it's more so of this kid's a talent. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to stay at 147, there's nobody else to really fight but this guy. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, the similar styles and things like that. Like I said, after his last performance, that was crazy against Roman Villa. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, yo, like who would not want to see him fight against a formidable foe, or who's probably the most formidable foe right now? You know what I mean? So I don't think it's just like, oh, retribution for Errol. I think Boots gets his just due. You know what I'm saying? I think he's a hell of a fighter, and people want to see him fight against competition.
I 100% agree. You know, I don't got anything to add to that. That was well said, for real. You know, the best fighting the best. That's what matters in each weight class. So